Well, welcome back to the Grip Wild Men Who Matter podcast. We are so excited to be with you again. And look, we're really enjoying this, and hopefully you guys are too. As always, I am here with my man, Brandon Broach. As always, he is truly the man who makes this work. He is the mastermind behind the technology of what we do. What's up, Brandon?
What's up, Steve? So good to be here on this rainy afternoon in Alabama. I'm excited to talk today because today we're going to get to hear a little bit more of your story. You know, one of the things that we've kind of discovered in this process is every single one of us has been gifted with a talent or an ability. We have these passions that burn inside of us, these things that we're not really sure why they drive us the way that they do, but they keep us awake at night. They wake us up in the morning. They're the things that really make your heart come alive. One of the things that we've discovered in this is everybody's got these talents, but nobody gets there on their own. So no matter what you love to do, if you love business, if you love numbers, if you love hunting, if you love fishing or sports or whatever your hobby is, whatever your passion is, you probably didn't arrive at that on your own. It's always connected to another person. And so today I'm excited because you're going to tell us a little bit about your story because you are a fisherman and you love to fish. And I wanted you to share your story today about how you got introduced to fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the one thing that we kind of joke around about at here at Grip Wild is seems like everything we always do is about hunting, and everybody thinks that we're all hunters. And I give everybody a hard time around the office that, you know, I'm a fisherman. Like I'm a fisherman to the core. I just happen to like hunting, and I just happen to make a living making and developing and selling hunting products. But I'm a fisherman. Period. That is the core of who I am is fishing, and that passion has really, I think, continued throughout the years just to grow more and more and more. But just like what you just said, but it all started with one person, and the day that my grandfather took me fishing for the first time, and I know this statement sounds generic, but it's true for me. The day he took me fishing for the first time, it changed my life. It literally changed my life. And here's how I know it changed my life. And here's how I know that fishing truly is a passion of mine. Because when I think about that day and when I tell that story, I can tell it like it happened yesterday. And it was over 30 years ago. But I remember it as vividly as it happened yesterday. And it has truly penetrated my soul and my thoughts for 30 years. And I'll tell you a little bit about it today, just so maybe you can draw a picture of it, or even draw a picture of your own experience and your own story of where maybe a passion in your life started. I'll never forget, my grandfather had a old green John boat with a 20 horsepower Mercury on it. And I fell in love with that boat. I still own that boat to this day. It's actually within eyesight of us recording this podcast. That boat, it will never leave my family. It will never leave my family, period. I will have it to the day I die. And I pray daily that my sons will fall in love with it like I did. Because it means a lot to me. Because I looked at that boat day after day after day, and each day I would go and play in it. Because I used to, at one point in my life, I lived with my grandparents, and as a small child, and every day I would go and climb in this boat, and I would visualize and picture me fishing. I would find old pieces of fishing lures, worms, and old pieces of line, and I would tie that line onto the worm, and I'd throw it over the edge of the boat while sitting in the yard. Don't forget this. I'm not on water. I'm not actually fishing. While sitting in the yard, and I would just visualize and pretend like I was fishing. I mean, I'd never been, and it was all I wanted to do. And so I'll never forget the day, the first day he ever took me out in that boat. I remember, I just remember it all kind of happening in slow motion. and I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what the next step was. I wasn't versed in it. I hadn't been exposed to it. So every move was a new move, right? Everything was a new thing. And literally the very first fish, the very first bass that I ever saw caught hooked me for life because of what I saw and what I experienced in it. I know exactly. He caught it on a black and blue jig, a black and blue jig with the real. We don't really use them anymore, but with a black pork trailer. I mean, this is old school stuff, guys. This is 30 years ago, and what mesmerized me the most is he caught this largemouth bass on this black and blue jig, and it had a brim sticking out of its throat. So this bass had just recently tried to eat this big bluegill, and half of it was hanging out of the fish's throat. And I was a little kid, like I was a little kid, and I was so mesmerized by it. I was so mesmerized by what I was seeing. And then it wasn't too long later we had turned the curve in this pond and we were headed back down the bank, and right before I caught my first bass ever, I was actually taught a life lesson that I have held on to my entire life, and is what I have focused on my entire life. And I actually had an opportunity to preach at my grandfather's funeral, and I spoke about this because this is the one thing that he taught me. This is kind of a little side note. I didn't know where it's going to go here today, but I do want to share this because it rocked my world, and it stuck with me my whole life. And it's basically how I have focused my daily living, my family, my business, everything I do. I was using a white rooster tail, old school rooster tail. It'd catch anything. If you ever have to catch fish, just tie on a white rooster tail. I promise you, you'll catch something. But this lake, it had a little bit of algae in it, a little bit of grass, like slimy algae in it, and a rooster tail has a treble hook on it. And I kept getting just a little bit of grass on it, a little bit of green slime on it. And I looked to my grandfather and I said, "Does it matter if I have a little bit of grass on this bait, on this rooster tail?" And he looked at me, and my grandfather was a man of few words, but when he said something, you should listen. And he looked at me and he says, I said, "Does it matter if there's a little bit of grass on it?" He said, "Does it matter if you catch a fish?" And basically that told me that yes, a little bit of something does matter. As a child, even as a small child, that resonated with me. I can remember vividly translating his maybe somewhat sarcasm to a life lesson that yes, little things can matter greatly in your life, both negatively and positively. And so for the rest of my life, and I have so much, even in trying to teach my children, focusing on the small things can have great impact in your life. Changing something small can have great impact in your life. And I started cleaning off the little bit of grass off my bait every time I cast it and retrieved, and I caught my first bass ever. And I was hooked. And I've been hooked for life. I've been hooked since then, and I don't see it going anywhere. And man, praise God that so far my children are hooked with fishing. And that's, as a father, that's just so exciting that I will continue to get to enjoy that in my life with my children. And so, but to bring that back around to why we're here today is the idea that this passion in my life, this joy in my life, this thing that has honestly, if you know me, if you know me from around town or my life or growing up, you know that everything I talk about, it seems to be some theme of fishing, or at least the outdoors. And so, but that passion, that love, that drive, that moment that really shaped who I am didn't come from the fish. It came from a man who took me fishing. It came from my grandfather, who was willing to invest that time in me. And even more so, even if it was sarcastic, gave me a life lesson that I have stood on for my entire life. But that passion was introduced by a person, not a thing.
Even if you wake up and you say, man, I want to do that. I want to be that thing. I want to start a new hobby. I want to be a fisherman. Well, even if you wake up with that desire, where do you start? I have a saying that I say a lot in the field, like nobody wakes up and arbitrarily decides to be a duck hunter. They may have a desire to try something, to try the experience, but where have I gained all of my experience? It's been in the relationships. It's been in the people that have invited me and brought me along and showed me the way and explained to me, no, this is how you should do it. This is what you need. This is the equipment you need. This is the process you go through. So it's all relational. And it's just so important because when we talk about things like talent and being successful and finding significance and finding that place that you're searching for, we say it, I think we said it last week, and we probably even said it the week before, that you can be the best. No matter how talented you are, that may get you to the top, it may get you to the pinnacle, but what's going to keep you there? It's never talent. It's character and it's integrity. And both of those things are fundamentally founded on having other people being able to speak into your life.
Absolutely. And I think if you think about also think about talent, I mean, talent really, in the context of the lane that it's in, I mean, talent is temporary. Your talent will fade. Your talent will one day not really be talent anymore. But the relationships and the people that you met along the way and did life with and participated in that talent, whatever it is, those are lasting. Those will last forever. And so we can't lose sight of that. I mean, even if, talking more about my story, every fishing story, every season of my life in the fishing industry, the fishing world, just fishing for fun, every story, I think, if I really sat down and just started jotting things out, or sat down and maybe wrote a chapter of a book, every one of them would revolve around me meeting somebody. I think very rarely would I ever sit down and talk about a day of fishing or a day of hunting. I mean, even our big days, even the days that, yes, it was an amazing harvest or amazing catch. We caught so many, we caught so big. We still would relate that or connect that back to someone, to somebody, to a community that we were part of, to someone that we had met, to a conversation that we struck up in a bait store, or a conversation that we struck up at the boat ramp, or over breakfast at a little small hole-in-the-wall restaurant where, for whatever reason, a lot of fishermen or a lot of hunters end up there every morning or every day for brunch, where you've hunted and you've come in, or you fished and you've come in.
That's where the best breakfast is, by the way.
That's right.
Those places,
yeah. Like the holes in the walls is really where you got to go if you really want to experience true food, especially like what we call soul food, and it really brings you back to why you're doing all of this. But
that's a great point, though, because how many conversations have we had with people in those environments, and it's this collective place. It's a place where people who have the same kind of mindset, the same, they've been through the same experience. They have the same chase, right? They're pursuing the same thing, whether it's hunting or fishing or even sports. It's a post game, you're hanging out. When you surround yourself with people that are on a common path, that are experiencing the same type of struggle that you're experiencing, there's this relationship, there's this relatability that happens. And then oftentimes when we walk away from that circumstance, I don't remember what I ate that day, but man, I remember the conversation that we had at the table, or I remember the conversation that we struck up with the guy, at the boat ramp. And that's something that I carry with me. And I think it's because ultimately, wherever you go and whatever you're striving for, whatever you're pursuing, ultimately the only thing that's going to go with you from season to season It's not going to be your success. It's not going to be your trophies. It's not going to be your bank account. The thing that goes season to season is relationships. That's what we carry from one season to the next.
That's right. The guy who taught me how to tie a knot, the guy who showed me how to cast a bait caster, the person who really explained why to fish a ledge the way you fish a ledge, the person who taught you how to shoulder a shotgun, or really what is the way you can hit a moving target, a clay target, a bird, a dove, a duck's moving over and over again. What was the strategy? Why your success in all of this, your fulfillment in all of this, in catching fish or harvesting an animal, it came from someone pouring into you. And so, yes, I totally agree. That is the lasting element. And if you just think about your life, think about your process, think about your journey, think about what the places you've been and the experiences you've had. What are the things that stand out? And I think if you would sit down and do that and walk through that, you would look up and you wouldn't have a lot of quote unquote trophies on your page, catches on your page, the size of the deer on your page, or the number of mallards you killed on your page, or even your turkey feathers and your beards on your page. You'll really, if you'll look and if you write your stories and you'll write your experiences down over and over again, you will begin to see a common theme, and that will be people. That will be the people that were involved. And that's why it's important, because it's the proof's in the pudding. If you think about it, like, what's the most important element of us chasing our passions and us pursuing our passions? At Grip, we talk about, like, passion's huge here. It's part of who we are. The P in Grip is passion. And we have to be more passionate about what we do than anybody else around us. No matter if it's about hunting, or about being a husband or a dad, or about being a businessman, or about starting a business, or being an entrepreneur, or being a police officer, or being an accountant, right? Be more passionate about accounting than anybody else around you. And again, we talk about all the time, like, your passion, it's not your volume. Like, people say all the time that I'm passionate because sometimes I speak loudly, or I speak with a lot of energy, and I always want to make sure they understand that my passion is not my volume level. My passion is the state of my heart. My passion is my buy-in to what I'm chasing, and it's not because of the reward. It's not because of the trophy. I'm bought into the things that I'm bought in. I'm passionate about the things that I'm passionate about because of the return I get inside. Because I'm passionate about helping people, because I know the return they'll get inside, in their souls.
Right.
The eternity, the internal return, not the trophy. Trophies are great. Yes, we love them. I mean, I'm staring at 3 huge buck racks right now, and we got a beautiful pintail on the wall. We got a full turkey mount. Like, the trophies are great, right? They're great. But the lasting impact of pursuing your passion is the people, is the buy-in of why you do it, not what you do. And we can't lose sight of that. And the why is the relationships. How can we use our passions? How can we use our talents? How can we use the things that bring us alive to impact people? Because look, if you guys keep listening, we're so grateful you guys have listened to these podcasts, and maybe you're checking us out on our social media at Grip Wild and our Facebook, and we think our website's really useful if you'll dive into it, and we hope you guys are, and you'll continue to do so. But look, I promise, if you do, here's what you'll continue to hear, is that we're trying to help you take these passions, these desires, these talents, the things that bring you alive, and connect them to why you're here. Connect them to your purpose. You're going to hear that over and over again, because what we know what we believe in, what we have experienced ourselves, is that if you'll take that passion, that desire, the thing that brings you alive, and you'll connect it to why you exist, if you'll connect it to your purpose, you will be living a life of significant impact. And we tell people all the time, they ask, well, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what your purpose is either. But what I do know, 100% for sure, that the common denominator in my purpose, in your purpose, Brandon, in all of our purposes, the common denominator will always be people. Anybody that you see, that you experience, who is living a life of impact, who is living a life of fulfillment, the people that you encounter in your life that have true joy and true peace and true, man, when you're around them, they're contagious. If you'll really peel back that, if you'll peel back that success, if you'll peel back that impact, if you'll peel back what it is about them, I promise you, put it to the test. I promise you, the common denominator will be people. And that's why we focus on it so much here, is getting you guys to see and to experience that you're searching for something, you're chasing something, you're looking for this fulfillment in your life. And I don't necessarily know how to encourage you to get there. I don't necessarily can give you the 5 steps to fulfillment, but what I can give you, and what I can, hopefully you can see, and maybe you're even willing to try, is that part of your fulfillment process, part of your success process, is how will you engage with people in your life? How will you invest in people in your life? How will you get to a point where you're letting key individuals into your life who will impact you in ways that you are not experiencing?
The passion that we're talking about is, again, it's an indicator as to how God has wired each of us. Every one of us is different. Every one of us has things that we're really good at and things that we're not as good at. But we always talk about passion in that sense. But what is that for you? And if you're struggling to come up with, man, I don't even know what I'm passionate about, I'm going to give you 2 questions to ask yourself that really help you in this process. It's going to help highlight a starting point for you to go on this little discovery. And so the first question is, what is it? What activity or experience or interaction do you have in your life where you come alive inside? Now, it may be 3 or 4 different kind of experiences, and so it's not to say that any one of them is, well, that's my passion and I've got to go that way for the rest of my life, but they're indicators. So you got to take a minute. Think about the things, the experiences, the activities, the people that you're around. When do you feel yourself come alive inside? And pay attention to those moments, because those are indicators as to the way that God has wired you. And the second one is, what is it that gets you out of bed in the morning or keeps you awake at night? Like, for me, it's an easy example. I like to sleep. I don't like to stop working, but when I stop working and I go to sleep, it's hard for me to get up. But for some reason, you can go through my cell phone and look at all the alarms that I have saved starting at 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. And they're labeled ducks, ducks, ducks. Because when it comes to, hey man, I got to get up at 2 in the morning so I can hit the road so I can go hunt some ducks, I never struggle to wake up on those days. I never, ever hit the snooze button. And so that's how I know that, man, that's a passion for me. And I've got to figure out how that connects to people and connects to my purpose. But what is that in your life? What are the things that you jump out of bed for in the morning? Or even more so, what are the things that when you lay awake at night, they're churning in your head and you're just dreaming up new ideas and you're so excited about something and it's just hard to shut it down? So what areas of your life do you notice that you come alive? And what are the things that get you out of bed or keep you awake at night? Those are 2 great questions to ask yourself as indicators of, man, okay, what am I passionate about?
I know it may take some time, but be intentional about making a change, and don't spend any more of your time in a place where you don't come alive, right? Don't spend any more of your life in a lane where you're just head down pushing through. Like God has a greater plan for you than that. Like God has put some excitement and some joy and some talent and things in your life that do make you come alive for a reason. Like stop putting a can top on that and just saying, well, it's the hand that I was dealt, or it's just where I'm at. It's the cards that I've played. It's just where I'm at. Man, make a choice today to identify that. Those things that keep you alive, keep you awake at night, the things that you're willing to run through a brick wall for, and consider maybe making a shift. Consider maybe making a change in your life so that you are getting up every day, living life to the full. Does that mean it's always fun? No. Does that mean it's always, look, if you look on all of our Instagram pages, you get the best of the best, right? You think we catch fish and kill animals every day, or we're out in the woods every day and we're not working. That ain't the case. I mean, we grind daily around here, but it's intentional. We intentionally surrounded ourselves and submerged ourselves in those things that do bring us alive, and we've made and are making and will make a career out of it. And that's how and when we take those things and we pair them with the people that we're doing them with, that's where we begin to experience fulfillment in our lives. And so, man, think about those two things. Think about the two things that really just, man, get you excited, get you going. Like you're like a kid all jacked up on Mountain Dew or ate too many pieces of Jolly Rancher, and the things that keep you awake at night. And maybe consider making a pivot in your life. I mean, it's a scary step for some of us, because some of us are currently, for whatever reason, we're really far away from where we're supposed to be. We're really far away, maybe, from our purpose. We're really far away from being in a lane that fulfills us. But you gotta start somewhere. You gotta start with a step. And it's a common theme here. Start somewhere. Make a move somewhere. Change something. And you will find yourself back in that lane of living out this extraordinary life that we talk about, this life of abundance, this life of fulfillment, this life and the reason you're here is far greater than you ever hoped for or imagined. It's in the Bible, and you can live it out. You can live out this life of fulfillment, but you got to take a step.
Steve, thanks for sharing your story today about the first time you ever went fishing. I think that frames up a lot and helps us. We all have those moments. And I hope if you're listening today, you were able to stop and kind of envision your own story. And hopefully you'll take the steps that we gave you today and really kind of dig into what your purpose is. Because we believe that when you can uncover your purpose and start connecting it to the people around you, you're going to find the meaning in life that you've really been searching for. So until next time, thanks for listening to the Men Who Matter podcast. For Steve Wisdom, I'm Brandon Broach, and remember, you are a man who matters.